incubation period of COVID-19 infections of up to 14 days. Hence, an individual could be infected and be walking around normally without showing any signs and symptoms, yet transmitting infections from one individual to the other individual. We term such an individual as being an asymptomatic carrier. This particular characteristic of the virus has made it challenging for WHO and for most countries in curbing its spread or in containing the spread of the virus. This led the World Health Organization to declare it a pandemic of public health concern. It went ahead to suggest to its member states certain measures which could help contain the spread of the virus. Some of these measures include the complete lockdowns of regions and of countries, closure of schools, closure of countries' borders, not allowing visitors in or out of their countries, closures of various non-essential activities, and basic health practices such as the use of nose masks and face shields, and the washing of hands with soap under running water. And most importantly, recommended that because of the nature of the novel coronavirus, countries should consider mass testing as isolating, strict contact tracing and surveillance, and enhance contact tracing. And this way, under doing all these measures, would lead in the containment of the virus, and also the country being ahead of the virus in terms of curbing its spread. However, mass testing has been a struggle for most affected countries since test kits were in short supply. Because of that, most developed countries like Germany, USA, Italy, Spain resorted in the production of their own test kits, to fast track the testing of various suspected COVID-19 cases. This way, the self-isolation could be done, and the contact tracing and enhanced contact tracing and surveillance could be accomplished or could be. In order for this mass testing to be successful and less testing kits to be used, most researchers employed the use of the pool or the group testing. Yes, I know you have heard various journalists, researchers, and scientists make mentioning this particular term. But what is pool testing? What is group testing? Is it the first time this particular technique is being used? Why is it important in this pandemic era? Has this method, or has the pooling method, been verified or validated? And many more questions will be answered in this particular section. I'm your host, Andrews the Right. Today, I would explain what it actually means when the term pooling or group testing is being used. And we will also look at some few papers which has been published in this regard. Pool testing or group testing or pooling involves detecting the genetic material of a virus in samples that are combined, for faster results, and at the same time maximizing the use of resources. Pooling was originally conceived during the World War II to test thousands of military personnel for syphilis, and was even suggested for the testing patients living with the human immunovirus in the early 1990s. Not only that, but this particular technique has been employed or has been successfully employed in detecting chlamydia, malaria, and influenza. So you see, this particular technique is not a new technique to the world. It's something that has been used over and over again in various situations. What are some of the methods that are used? Group testing is just a numbers game. I'm going to, based on the papers I have, I'm going to talk about two methods which has been employed in the use of group testing, or which has been used to verify this particular method. Group testing is a numbers game. Let's say we are examining 100 persons, and out of these 100 persons, one individual is positive. Normally, what you would have to do is to test differently or individually all those 100 persons in order to determine that particular person who is positive. Now, with group testing, let's say the 100, you can be able to group this 100 persons into 5 groups. Let's say group 1, the first 20, group 2, the second 20, group 3, the third 20, group 4, the fourth 20, and group 5, the fifth 20. Let's say the positive sample or the positive case is in group 5. Okay, so right now you have pulled the samples together as group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which means that genetic materials are going to be extracted and they are going to be pulled together. Hence, you are going to test these samples for the presence of the coronavirus genetic material. So, let's say after the testing, you have discovered that the first 4 pools came out to be negative or tend to be negative. You can confidently say that yes, the first 4 groups, all individuals in that particular pool are negative, whilst the fifth group which contain the positive will come out to be positive. Then you will do a second testing by taking the fifth group and testing them individually. You will test them individually. You will take the fifth group of 20 and test them individually to determine that particular patient who is positive. So this way you have made use of first the pooled technique made use of 5 test tickets initially until the positive ones was detected in the fifth pool, then individually tested, which means that what you have made use of 25 test kits out of the 100 test kits which normally would have been used. So this way you have saved 75 of those test kits. So that is the first method, or the first kind of grouping method which is being used and employed all over the world. My country, Ghana, use this particular method. So at the end, an administration capacity which can test like 200 in a day, using this particular method could test over 10,000 samples in a day. Many of the strategies are under development employ the use of computer and robotic to design an optimal number of pools or to streamline the process. Yes, I'm about to talk to you about the second method. This second method, is based on the use of certain computer algorithm. This particular method was developed by Hertz and his colleagues, and it eliminates the need to test the sample twice, unlike the first one. After you have detected the positive in any of the pools, you have to test them individually. But this particular strategy, which employs the use of computer algorithms, eliminates the use to do the second testing. Now, rather than separating samples into distinct pools, they divide each sample among pools that overlap. They divide its samples among pools that overlap. For example, say you are the same 100 samples from before, one of them which is positive, you then distribute those 100 samples in various combinations. That is into 14 groups of 50. An example, 14 groups of 50. Each sample appears or should appear in 6 or 7 of the pools. 6 or 7 of the pools of 14. That is, each sample, when we are combining, we are overlapping them. So each sample is supposed to appear 6 or 7 times in the 14 pool which you have been used, in the 14 pools of 50. By knowing which samples belong, or which sample uniquely belongs to all the 6 pools or 7 pools. For instance, if patient 74 is the only individual who is positive, this individual or this sample should be positive in pools 1, 2, 7, 12, 9, and 13. You can then trace the positive result back to that exact individual by using the computer algorithm which has been generated for this function, thereby eliminating the need for you to retest that particular pool individually. Okay, so this way, if you are using 14, so this way with Hess and its colleague, we are not using 25 test kits, but we are going to end up using only 14 test kits, saving a lot more of the test kits for other testings to be done. Okay, so those are the 2 methods which my research that I have done, I've ended up with. The first one, which my country, Ghana, has been employed in several countries around the globe, and the second one. Now, I want us to look at some of the papers which has been done in this regard in validating this particular method. Now, let's start with the Rambam Medical Center and the Technion Institute. They are all institutes in Israel. They performed a pool test with samples of up to 32 and 64. Now, at a time, and found out that the test could yield a positive even if only one member of that pooled group is positive or is COVID-19 positive. I was able to get to a video by the lead researcher. Let's listen to what he said concerning their technique or their verification of the pool technique and its importance. It did not end there. A group of researchers also from Germany, that is the German Red Cross and Blood Donor Service Frankfurt, and the Institute of Medical Virology at the University Hospital Frankfurt in the Goethe University also conducted a field study of 50 patients whose samples were pooled together into 10 mini pools, divided into 10 mini pools of 5 samples each. So, like the first method, it was divided into 10 mini pools of 5 samples each. So the first pool 5, so 10. The second pool 10. The third pool 10, up to 50. Then 50 individuals were also tested in parallel, which means they were tested individually to detect those individuals who were positive. They concluded, or they said, that the pool testing has no influence on the detection limit. In the case of a positive mini pool result, individual testing is carried out in the previously reserved samples. The positive samples can then be identified within 4 hours. The patient sample were pooled, as I said before, into 10 mini pools of 5 samples each. and also they were being tested in parallel. Of the 50 patient samples, 5 samples were SARS-CoV-2 positive. These samples were distributed across the other 4 pools. All 4 mini pools came out to be positive from the PCR. They were being distributed. They wanted to be sure of the mini pools that they were doing. Now, mini pools containing only samples from patients without SARS-CoV-2 also came out to be negative. Okay, so this was a research that was done by both the Israelis and the Germans in verifying the pool testing method. Now, let's look at some of the results from the Germans. Based on their research, groups of 8 to 11 is good for a country whose infection rate is less than 2%. They went on also to show the average test kits which were used per group. As you can see, I have downloaded this document into my description. You can download them and read them for more understanding. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section. Yet another research was done by Stefan Losset et al. Of the Institute of Virology, Germany. They looked at the sensitivity of the RT PCR. In our next sessions, I will explain to you the testing method or used in detecting the SARS-CoV-2, the RT PCR, the polymerase chain reaction. I will explain what it is. So they try to look at the sensitivity of the RT PCR when these pooling techniques were used. This was done by critically looking at the various cycle threshold or the CT levels. It was done by testing 1,191 samples with only 265 testing kits, with only 267 testing kits out of the 1,000, which normally you need to use the over 1,000 testing kits in testing these individuals, that is separately or individually, but they used 267 test kits, which ended up with 23 of these 1,000 patients coming out to be positive of the infection. So their infection rate was about 1.96%. Now, the viral load during the asymptomatic period was also investigated by Zhu et al. I have attached this particular document too, so you could also go and read. And looking at their document, as the incubation period increases, so as the viral load increases. So what Stefan and his colleagues did was to calculate, or was to quantify, or was to look at the CT levels of these of these 23 positive individuals separately. So he looked at these individuals, the CT levels of these individuals separately, after which it then pulled the sample, and then looked at the CT levels, the positives that came out of this group. They normally, they look at the CT levels of these pooled samples, comparing them to their individual counterparts to determine whether the CT levels in the pool is the same as more or less than the CT levels as detected individually. I believe you understand their research as detected individually. From 40 to 30 pooled sample, they had their CT levels of positive pools was between 22 and 29, which was close to the CT levels of when tested individually, as you can see. As I said, the document is there for your perusal. They mention, however, that CT levels of individuals that are retested. When a suspected case is confirmed positive, there is a first testing, and then after the 14 days, there is a second testing. Now, the second testing, based on the research of Stefan and his colleagues, are saying that if you come to do the second testing and you pull them together, you are going to get lower CT levels. You are not going to see their CT levels. So that should be mentioned, or that should be in the note. Now, I have, as I said, all the documents have been made available, and this is what time would allow us. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel for more interesting research papers, for discussion of various research papers. And I can only do this when you also ask questions at the comment sections. So remember to subscribe and share to your friends so they would understand what we mean when we say pooling technique or group testing, and know that this particular method has been with us in existence from time immemorial. Of course, I am your host, Andrews the Right. Thank you for watching.